Welcome to Logan Rando Aquascaping. My name is Logan, and today I have a pretty big update for you guys on my roommate Mal's UNS 5N. So this has been set up for about 7 weeks now, and things are beginning to start to look really nice. It went through a little bit of an ugly phase with some diatoms, teeny little bit of plant melt, but we're through all that now, and the plants are really starting to look vibrant and spread out and fill out. So I'll kind of take you through each section of the tank. We'll do a little maintenance, and we'll talk about what's next for this tank. So let's get started. So around the holidays, about 4 weeks ago, the tank started to go through a little bit of a diatom phase. And honestly, this wasn't too bad because I used pre-cycled media when I set up this tank, and it's really heavily filtered. The UNS 5N is only a 4-gallon tank, but I'm using the OASE Biomaster Thermo 250 on it, which honestly you could put on like a 20-gallon tank. So it's heavily filtered. We've got really good gas exchange up top because I have a skimmer in there. So we were able to get through the worst of the algae and diatom phase pretty much no problem. That said, it probably had, a 1 to 2 week period where the plants were a little bit brown, but I introduced some autosynclists, a school of 6 of them, into the tank, and they've done a fabulous job clearing up any sort of diatoms. That and just good weekly maintenance. Right now we're doing 2 25% water changes a week because we made it through those opening phases, and that's kept the tank relatively algae-free. A little bit of cyanobacteria in one spot, but that's really nothing to stress about. You have a problem if it's really spreading all over the place and the tank is, smelling kind of weird and kind of funky. But in this case, it's just in one spot, probably an area that doesn't get a ton of flow. So no big deal. We'll treat it with hydrogen peroxide and move on accordingly. So let's talk about the foreground, the midground, the background, how the individual plants are doing, and sort of what we can look forward to in the future with them. So starting up front, we have the Hemianthus cuba, and it's looking very vibrant. Again, it had a little bit of a brown phase for a while, teeny tiny little bit of melt, but the biggest issue was when Mal was first doing the maintenance in the tank, she kind of made the beginner mistake of adding the water too quickly, so it uprooted several times in the first few weeks and we had to replant. So it had a little bit of a delayed start with rooting, and now that it's kind of finally had a chance to root and we've done one trimming, it's spreading out and it's starting to get really compact and vibrant, but it's still patchy. So I think it needs a few more weeks and another trimming session to really kind of fill out, but overall happy with the health. We're seeing new growth every week, and that's a really good thing. And creeping into the foreground is the Eleocharis pusilla, which probably had the rockiest start out of all the plants. We had some pretty significant melt and we ended up adding healthier plant, and now it's doing really well. You can see it's really spreading all over the place. The runners are, spreading out all through the substrate. It's creeping into the foreground, it's creeping into the background, which was the intended desire. Again, it's still pretty sparse, but the growth on it is really nice and really clean. So it's definitely due for a trimming. Gonna hack some of that down, and anytime you trim a plant, almost no matter the species, it's gonna promote lateral growth, which gets you that more bushy, compact look. So we're gonna do that with the cuba today as well as the Eleocharis, and that's gonna get us some really nice results in the future. And then moving on to the back, the Rotala green has filled in really nicely. It'll be 2 times now that we've sort of hacked it down and kind of replanted to get it nice and dense. When we first planted this tank, there was a shortage of Rotala green, believe it or not. I think we got like the last 2 cups on the West Coast. So what we did was, every few weeks, just kind of trim the tallest plants and then replant it so it was nice and dense. And if you look from the top view, you can see it's pretty full. The left side needs a little bit more filling in, but we'll do that today when we hack down the Rotalas, and we'll fill in what's missing. But I am noticing a little bit of a deficiency with the Rotala. I'm seeing a little bit of necrosis on some of the leaves, and I'm seeing some yellowing. So what I'm gonna do today is add some root tabs. I'm just adding the ADA root tabs that come with the soil, and that should hopefully solve our deficiency issue. Additionally, a couple weeks ago, we started dosing nutrients. That's something I'd like to hold off on for the first few weeks of the tank's life, because in my personal experience, whenever I start dosing on day 1, I tend to get some pretty bad algae after a couple weeks. So by delaying that around 4 to 5 weeks, you keep an eye on your plant health, make sure nobody's starving, but it sort of gets you through that period a little easier. And now that I'm seeing some deficiencies in the Rotalas, it is time to add some more root tabs and just continue our dosing schedule. So we'll keep an eye on those over the next few weeks, make sure things remain healthy. So while I was doing this maintenance and the trimming, I took the opportunity to clean the lily pipes and clean the tubing. Over the last few weeks, they'd accumulated some detritus on them, and you'd be surprised how much a little bit of detritus can sort of obstruct your flow. So it's a good thing to be on top of. You don't have to be obsessive about it. A little bit of browning on the lily pipes and the tubes, no big deal, but when it starts to get like really caked on, it can be detrimental to the flow and the circulation of our aquarium. So took care of that today, and they're nice and sparkling clean. And while they were kind of soaking in the bleach, I did a 30% water change, scrubbed the rocks a little bit. So I would say in about 1 to 2 weeks, we'll add the Betta in there, and by then the plants will be in a really nice state. So things will be good. And it's really hard to find glass lids currently for these UNS tanks. So I held off for the longest time, hoping to find a lid, but the Philanthus fluitans, the red root floater, is sort of gonna act like our lid. It's really healthy, and you know, when I first added it to this tank, it was only 4 or 5 little leaves, but now it covers almost the entire top. So I do have to make sure it's not starving out the plants below it for light, but it should sort of act as a lid and you know, help provide some areas of shade, make the Betta feel safe and secure, so we hopefully won't have to worry as much about jumping. But overall, the tank has, you know, a lot more growth to do and a lot more filling in, but it's improved really dramatically from when we first set it up. And we made it through the hard opening, and it's really starting to like explode with growth, and it's looking really vibrant. So excited for the future. Can't wait to add the Betta. So that's all we've got for today's update. Next time you see this tank, there will be a Betta in it, and I look forward to that big reveal. So if you like what I'm doing, go ahead and hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.